At the beginning the movie, a group of young researchers enter a prohibited cave. After 10 minutes, one of the girls sees something horrible and chooses to come out and find help. When she finally reaches the peak, she is taken aback to see that the planet has undergone radical transformation. Sandstorms are spreading devastation throughout the landscape, and a spacecraft has been spotted in the area, in addition to enormous rock formations. This means that, while they were imprisoned in the cave, nearly 1,000 years passed outside. The film then quickly jumps back to the beginning. Hopper, an archaeology professor, and Boss, his dog, are now on the prowl in the area surrounding the caverns. They find a vehicle that seems like it came from the 1970s. The minivan belonged to a bunch of hippies who vanished some decades ago, and it turns out that Hopper is looking for them. Boss appears to have felt something and wants to go home soon while the hunt continues, as he begins barking. But against his advice, Hopper ventures inside one of the tunnels and finds a mysterious cowboy stuck in time. His dress and weapon give him away as someone from another age. Hopper, stunned, reluctantly gets back in his car and heads for home. There, he is welcomed by Taylor and Jackie, two of his students who are eager to begin their new adventure. Hopper, however, breaks the news that the plan has altered, and that he will be embarking on this mission without them. Soon later, he returns to the cave with everything he needs. There, he finds an odd layer that serves as a barrier between the cave and the outside air. Hopper, despite his skepticism, penetrates the layer, and the frozen guy immediately begins to move. In the next scenario, after 2 days without contact from their professor, the students decide to go in search of him. Unfortunately, Taylor and his friends don't have a car, so they have to rely on a lady named Kara, who seems to have a major love on him, to drive them there. Kara readily agrees to bring her father's Jeep, but only on the condition that she and her younger sister, Vives, be invited along. Worse yet, it appears like Furby and Vives are participating in a school shooting, so the archaeology students will have to bring another youngster along for the ride. As expected, upon arrival, the gang finds the deserted minivan from earlier. After doing some investigating, they discovered that the professor's own parents were the elusive hippies he was seeking for all along. They went inside the cave system decades ago in pursuit of the fabled Fountain of Youth, but they never came out. The group then follows a frayed rope to a new cavernous area. After following the rope into a narrow tunnel, Jackie discovers that it has been severed. She also realizes the cave is quite deep, suggesting that here is where the professor may have become lost. Despite Taylor's protests that the rope is too worn to have belonged to Professor Hopper, he descends to the cave for a closer look. The girls opt to come along, too, and Furby is tasked with keeping watch out of fear of the dark. Kara encounters the same peculiar barrier on her descent of the vast tunnel, and she tells Taylor that the temperature is different on the other side of it. Regardless, they go to the cave's bottom. After this, we flash back 2 days to when Professor Hopper first enters the barrier. As he cautiously makes his way deeper into the cave, he hears a scream and a frightening howl from within. Hopper, alarmed, begins to rush back and, upon returning to the entrance, observes the peculiar flickering of the sunlight. After only 2 minutes inside the cave, it is darkness when he emerges. After that, he rushes to his truck, only to discover that it has been hidden by vegetation. Moreover, the entire arid region is now covered in thick forest, suggesting that decades have passed since Hopper entered the cave. Soon after, he discovers Kara's broken-down Jeep and Taylor's backpack, prompting him to return to the cave in search of his friends. To return to the present, the party continues to investigate the cave until they hear the same terrible cry as Hopper did. They give up their goal and head back to safety because they are afraid of the unknown. When Jackie is climbing first, the rope snaps and she falls from a respectable height. Her leg is broken, and Taylor's arm is broken in the process of saving her. The second rope, which Taylor tries to inspect, has also been unexpectedly severed. They use this evidence to conclude that Furby has been playing a practical joke on them. Taylor, infuriated, shouts his name over the radio, but the kid doesn't answer. A huge thud can be heard in the background as the gang, now in a state of fear, tries to figure out how to escape the cave. Looks like something dropped from the sky. Taylor, now terrified, tries the radio again, and this time hears a garbled "help me" in response. When Taylor inquires as to the man's identity, everyone's worst nightmare is realized: it's Furby. Given no other choice, the party decides to continue traveling down the tunnel until they reach an area where they can see the sky above them. Interestingly, the sun keeps flickering continually, as though day is changing into darkness in the fraction of a second, exactly as Hopper had seen it do previously. Nevertheless, the brilliant Taylor is convinced that Furby is up to no good with his lantern. When they continue looking around, though, they discover Furby dead on the side of the room. He has a broken neck and some horrible scars on his face. The gang is devastated by what they see and begins to worry that someone is following them. And when Taylor discovers the severed end of the rope attached to Furby, they know for sure. Luckily, the team discovers the boy's GoPro is still operational, so they can investigate his death. Furby, in the video, waits for days for the gang to return, but they never do. Without success, he does everything from contacting them on the radio to yelling through every crevice in the cave to tossing pebbles as a clue. He decides to go for a walk when he's bored and stumbles onto the hippie minivan from the 1970s, complete with a notebook. It is written in the diary that the unknown cavern houses a spring of youth with the power to heal the sick and even resurrect the dead. Because his mother had a rare kind of cancer, Hooper's parents went into the cave to try to get some peace and quiet. After a few more days, Furby has used up all of his food and water. He chooses to escape the area, assuming that his buddies are dead, but he requires the Jeep keys from Taylor in order to do so. He concludes that the best option is to descend the cave shaft and get it personally. But after he passes beyond the unknown barrier, he sees the sky swiftly altering. As soon as he tries to make sense of what's happening, the rope snaps on its own, sending him plummeting to his death. This is the impact that the party heard. After making it into the cave, the injured Furby gives the radio a try in an attempt to summon assistance. Unfortunately, this merely attracts the attention of man-eaters, who then brutally slaughter him upon their arrival. Everyone watches the tape in disbelief, despair, and disbelief. They have been in the cave for about half an hour, but Furby has been outdoors for days. This has made the group extremely anxious to go. Because she is the only one who isn't hurt, Kara has to free climb her way out of the vast cave. Taylor gives her a signal beacon before he leaves, so that she may contact the authorities as soon as she detects a signal. Kara struggles her way out of the cave, but what she sees next is so unbelievable that she is speechless. Formerly forested, the region is now a desolate wasteland with sandstorms on the horizon. Kara's persistent coughing is a result of the low oxygen levels. Concerned, she climbs to the top of a rock to try to contact the beacon. Kara does not get a signal, but she does see a bizarre spaceship-like object hovering in the distance, indicating that several millennia have passed since the last contact. Taylor and the others are disappointed that she didn't make an effort when she returns to the cave. Apparently, the 30 minutes Kara spent outdoors felt like just seconds to the others holed up in the cave. Kara, frustrated that her attempts are being ignored, produces photographic evidence to back up her allegation that she went outdoors. The film shows the bizarre desert environment and the enormous sandstorms. In the end, Taylor figures out that the sun's fluttering signifies another day has passed within the cave since time is slowed down in there. As a result of constant rubbing, the ropes had become brittle and were being snipped off, he explains. Hearing this, Vives decides to revisit Furby's tape, and while doing so, she makes a stunning discovery. In one of the snapshots, the sky is transitioning from winter's dark blue to summer's bright blue. This means that every second spent in the cave is equivalent to an entire year outdoors. The information frightens the gang, making them more determined than ever to get away. Kara regains her strength and makes another attempt to leave the cave, but at that moment, an alien-looking futuristic ladder appears. Then a huge alien-looking creature starts crawling down it, making everyone back off. As soon as the alien enters the cave, he is ambushed by a savage man-eater. There is a tussle between the two, but the gigantic alien quickly overcomes the man-eater and ties him up using a sophisticated electronic gadget. Then he begins after them, sending everyone running in terror. The party eventually finds the secret location where the man-eaters are feasting on their latest victim. It seems like the same cowboy who appeared at the opening of the film. The man-eating creatures have picked up on the humans' presence and have begun to chase them. Taylor gives his everything fighting the monsters alone to allow time for the rest to escape. He is no match for the man-eaters, and they kill him in a particularly horrific fashion. When they go get the others, Kara goes inside and is heartbroken to find Taylor dead. As she sobs, the big alien walks up to them and pulls Taylor to what looks to be the fountain of youth, a little pool of water. Amazingly, the long-disbelieved legend is proven true when he miraculously returns to life. But before they can celebrate, the man-eaters come back and begin assaulting the giant. This time, they've had the numbers advantage, and they've even managed to knock off his helmet, leaving the behemoth exposed and gasping for breath. Luckily, Kara and Taylor come to his aid just in time to save him from being killed, and they use his gear to trap the man-eaters. The pair tries to pull the giant to his feet after the fight, but he refuses their assistance. He seems to be having trouble breathing since the oxygen in Earth's atmosphere is toxic to him. Vives and Jackie arrive at the same moment, and they, too, see the wreckage. The giant shows a news story about the group's disappearance many centuries ago before he dies. He then shows them several additional movies that demonstrate how the human population has dispersed to other planets since Earth has become inhospitable. Transporting the people is a specialized spacecraft known as the Ark, which is the same vessel that Kara had seen before. Sadly, the giant only lives long enough to share this information before he dies. Taylor continues to look for answers in the cave and comes upon a wounded Professor Hopper. But what he sees after that completely rocks his world. Several more, slower moving layers of time lie in wait for them. Hopper's parents remain frozen in the first tier, while many cavemen battle it out in the lower levels for control of the Fountain of Youth. Hopper continues by saying that the entire network of caves is constructed to prevent any living thing from reaching the Spring of Youth. Despite Taylor's best efforts to bring him back to safety, Hopper refuses to go. Taylor quickly gets back to his friends and tosses the lifeless Furby into the well of eternal youth. Jackie's wounded leg is also being treated there. As they prepare to escape, however, the barbarians once again encircle them. They have nowhere else to go, so they decide to utilize the aliens' high-tech ladder. When Kara gets to the top, she finds the entrance has been filled with water. In front of her stunned companions, a monster snatches her up. Taylor and some others are now in a dangerous scenario. The beasts will kill them if they try to ascend, and the barbarians will eat them if they try to descend. In a matter of seconds, Kara has completed her metamorphosis and is back in the cave, pulling everyone out with a futuristic rope. At some point later, she also yanks Furby, Professor Hopper, and Hopper's parents. The monsters who grabbed Kara before are revealed to be humans who have undergone evolutionary changes due to the passage of time. Also, Kara spent only a few seconds inside the cave, but she spent years in the outside air. The final scene takes place on the Ark, which is traveling across space in search of a new habitable planet. The Ark is governed by advanced species that use an alien language. As the film concludes, the spaceship accelerates away from the blue planet.